Second, Bill Mons.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Thank you. We'll move on. So item 3, approval of the meeting minutes from September 23rd. Has anybody had a chance to go over the minutes? Any changes needed?
I move approval, Scott Neves.
I'll second. Kurt?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? And all those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Up next, item 4, public comment opportunity. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to comment at this time? And I believe
There are no comments in the chat.
okay. Thank you, Rachel. So then if that's the case, we'd move on to item 5, payables. Any questions on the payables?
I would make a motion to approve the payables as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the payables as presented. Any discussion on that motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, payables are approved. Item 6, financial report. Anything for us, Rachel?
Nothing too noteworthy. We do have one more Motorola console expenditure that's going to be seen probably next meeting for you guys to see that. And then we'll have one last 20% completion invoice coming in for those radio consoles as well. I haven't seen that invoice yet. Other than that, we're looking pretty good in our revenues, working with Bob pretty closely on what our projections are for the end of the year so we can get our 2021 budget ready to go. It's not looking like we're going to have to make all of the transfers that were scheduled, but we still have some that will need to be made, and more of that will come in the radio discussion later.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Any questions for Rachel? Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing any. If we're good, we can move on to item 7, which would be the Spillman CAD committee. Looks like we are looking for members to be a part of a stakeholder team.
Right, we're Deanna's going to facilitate this. She's having communications with the project manager with Spillman right now, but we'd like to get a core users group identified, and then we're going to get a kickoff meeting scheduled here with that core users group right away. Obviously, you don't want to exclude anybody, but or anybody's invited to participate along the way if they need to. But we thought having a core users group that are going to be working closely with Spillman would be important. Bob Schaefer and Doug Hammer from our dispatch group are going to participate, and again, as well as Deanna and Joe be facilitating that. So we're looking for others who would serve that role.
Okay. Any board members that would like to participate in that?
Wouldn't this be a good thing for our CAC group to be involved in on the law and fire side?
That's what we were thinking. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing, just from our prior experience, whoever you guys decide are going to be, the people involved in the decision making, think that through so that they're communicating and they're able to make those decisions, and later you're okay with those decisions. So whether you do, consistency is good, whoever that point of contact is for your agency. There'll be, things during the planning and development and implementation, and there'll be decisions that your agencies will need to make, as probably more of a discipline. And then some specific by agency kind of decisions. I don't know what you guys are gonna, want to do with like unit numbers and type codes and that kind of thing, but bring somebody to the core team that's able to make those decisions, if that makes sense.
So question on that, Deanna. Jerry had sent out a request for a point of contact and the number of users. And so like for the sheriff's office, I'm going to be our point of contact, but I'm assuming you're also looking for some line level users.
Yeah.
As far as the implementation. Okay.
Yeah. And those might be that we set up the core team and you be that point of contact, or whoever you guys identify your agencies as the point of contact as the core team. And then you put together the stakeholder team. So the TAC group, I think definitely the fire and police TAC group, should, maybe those are our stakeholder group. I don't know. You guys decide that within your agencies, however you want to coordinate that. The document that Jerry sent out is we need to know how many users from every agency need to be trained. And Spillman said, we'll train as many people as you want. We'll set up as many training classes as you want. You just need to tell us the number of people. So for like law enforcement, for instance, they have like 4 hours of training for the Spillman mobile side. And then they have 8 additional hours of training for detectives. So if, Longview said, we don't, have just this core detective group all the time. So if they want to train all of their people and all of that, just let us know.
One follow-up on that is the clerical staff. Are we going to need to provide similar training for them? We have like number of records, and of course that may change in the number between our office and Longview, but there's still going to be those clerical staff that will be using parts of Spillman as well, or is this just specific to the CAD?
So I would include all of them. If you have like your front office staff and I guess records, I don't know if something's going to be different for them or not, but just identify them in the spreadsheet. So if it falls under your agency, you can identify the record staff and then identify your clerical administrative staff.
Okay.
So this is Kurt. When do you feel you'll need to know who those core members would be?
I think in the next week or two would be a good deadline.
Okay, thank you.
The sooner we have that, the sooner we can start trying to coordinate a kickoff meeting. And the project timeline is pretty aggressive because typically it takes, anywhere from 1.5 years to sometimes over 2 years to implement a new CAD system. And we're going to try to do this as we transition into the new facility. That's our goal.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So if you need to go back to your agencies and talk about that a little bit, maybe you could email Deanna and myself with that, as like she said, within the next week or so, and get that to us, and then we'll get that back to Spillman, and we can get this kickoff meeting set and get rolling.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like you'll await some emails with some names, Bob.
Okay. Yep.
For that.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Then up next, if we're finished with item 7, would be, do we have any board, I guess, comments or committee reports from the Law TAC or Fire TAC?
Law TAC won't have its next meeting until November 17th. So no updates since the last board meeting.
Okay, thank you. What about from the fire side, Fire TAC?
Nothing from fire either.
Okay. Any board comments? All right, if there aren't any, then item 9 would be, looks like we have an amendment to the Rice Fergus Miller agreement.
Yes, the agreement's way you set it up with Rice Fergus was to do this in phases, in different phases. You had the pre-design and then design phase and that, and as far as authorizations for the next level of work. What we're presenting today is this amendment will provide for your bidding, construction, administration, and closeout services for the 911 facility. So, and I've put together some detail in your agenda summary regarding what those particular services entail. The total contract amendment amount is for $460,000 and $460,394. That's a not to exceed amount. So again, it would be billed as necessary in that. And I think again, this really helps the consultants and would answer questions of the bidders, the contractors that are bidding the project during construction, issue any clarification if we need some addendums to the for the project there, then that's what the bidding assistance is. Then during construction, they're reviewing things like product submittals, rock paving, windows, material, carpeting, all those kind of things. They would review those and make sure they're in compliance with the specifications. And there may be shop drawings throughout there that they would review and make sure that they're meeting the specifications and that. And then closeout then is simply compiling all the information that came in during construction, providing us O&M manuals, record drawings of the project, and the reviewing the final payments and those kind of things. Make sure the contractors, paid all their bills and prevailing wages and all those kind of things. So pretty typical services for construction, bidding and construction. So our recommendation is to approve the amendment number 5 in the amount with Rice Fergus Miller for $460,394, not to exceed amount, and authorized signature by the interim director.
So understanding that the phased approach with this, just making sure I fully understand with this amendment, was this still something, even though we have to formally do the amendment, was this still something that was anticipated?
Yes. Yeah, they outlined in their basic agreement, they outlined these services, but we just didn't, until we got the design done and that we wanted to then negotiate the actual fee for the services that we thought we were going to need based on the construction documents that were put together.
Okay, thank you,
Well,
Bob.
go
Go ahead, Chet.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve amendment number 005.
So Bob, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So help me figure out what's being done here versus what Norm does.
Norm is on site every day, looking at progress during construction there, and making sure that the product coming in, making sure that submittals are getting turned into Rice Fergus Miller, making sure the contractors, communicating with Lowe, as an example, communicating with Lowe's on coordination, anything that we're doing on their site, and monitoring day-to-day activities and making sure that if we're having any projects during that he can either communicate with the owner that we need to be involved in something that's come up during construction, or advising Rice Ferguson of some changes in that. But he's the local on-site guy, day-to-day guy, versus Rice Ferguson would only be bringing somebody down here once a week to look at things, participate in progress meetings and that. But Norm's more the day-to-day guy.
And I think
Mr. Chairman, Joe,
Yeah, go ahead, Chet.
did we get a second for my motion or is it dead?
No, you're right. I guess procedurally wise, do we have a second on the motion, I guess, before we go into too much more discussion?
I'll second it just to bring up the discussion. This is Kurt.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt. Thanks, Chet. So we do have a second, so sorry about that. Go ahead.
So Bob, I'd like to follow up on maybe Andy's question too. It seems to me there's some duplication of service here. And, when we have this contract with Norm, and I have great respect for Norm and all that he does and his qualifications. And I think, in large part, he's going to be handling the day-to-day administration of this construction. It seems that, with Fergus Miller having to come down weekly, and it just seems there's pieces of this that we have duplication of effort. And I'm wondering, I don't know if there's negotiation available on this, but it just seems like in some cases we're paying twice. And that's a little bit of a concern for me.
Well, I guess the difference is Norm is not the design professional. He's not going to be the one that's, Rice Fergus is the one who's got the stamp, got their architect stamp and engineering stamp on there. And they're the ones that have to certify that the materials and the specifications and those will be followed. Norm is there just to making sure that communication is ongoing between the owner, Rice Fergus, and the contractor and that. But his hour number of hours, are going to be commensurate with just any problems, any gaps there that isn't being done there. But I don't feel that we have any duplication there. I think you really do need to have an owner's representative on site there. And I don't see that, your executive director or the 911 staff being on site out there. I do think you need to have somebody out there on site on a daily basis just to make sure that things are being done according to the specs. And if there's contractors doing something that, Rice Fergus wouldn't see because they're not out there on a daily basis, I think you need to have that on-site presence out there.
Okay, thank you.
I think they're going to be more inspectors. Yeah.
Any other questions for Bob? Comments on the motion?
Do you just one last one then, Bob? Do you feel the Rice Fergus fee, their percentages for the various facets of the amendment are in line?
Yeah, we looked at their scope, number of hours, level of effort that's anticipated, and they're in line. I should have pointed out, I think this actually, their original estimate, I think this final number actually came in about $35,000 or $40,000 cheaper than in their original estimate when they put together the original budget. So we have ramped it down a little bit, again, now that they've got the plans and specs done, they've refined what level of effort they think is going to be necessary. And this also includes a sub, Gibson Olson, they have some construction services in there too. So they'll actually be doing the civil work, and then your AdCom, the communications technical part there. That this amendment includes all of those subs doing their level of effort out there also.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And up next on the agenda, if we move down to item 7B, this would be the radio improvement project.
Yeah, we wanted to send you an update on this project. Since May, there's been some additional refinements of the scope and things like some of the site civil work that needed to be done, some changes in equipment and that. Deanna has got all of things revised in coordination with Day Wireless and some of their subs, and this budget reflects what we believe to be the final scope of work. The total cost of this of $536,000 will be spent this year. The increase in cost of $122,000. This is still within the budget that you did approve for the 2020 budget. But we think, again, based on some of the discussions Deanna had with users and what they were wanting, and then some of the owners of the different properties, these changes need to be made to finalize the project. So we wanted to, even though it's within budget, we wanted to bring this back to the board and give you an update on what the updated costs are, and are asking for you to make a motion to approve the radio project allocation adjustment as presented. And Deanna's here to answer any specific questions. She provides some pretty good detail in the backup to this agenda item, so she's available here to answer any specific questions you might have on this.
Just a reminder, what was the budget provided for it?
The total budget for the radio was $979,528. With these improvements plus some of the other equipment in there, we're going to come in. We think we're going to be coming in about $950,000 at this point. Something like that is what we think the total budget will be. And again, some of that may actually not be expended by the end of this calendar year, so then it would be carried over into next year. And we would have the, when you we do the 2021 budget, we'll give you our best estimate of what we think what carryover might occur next year.
And,
Okay, thank you.
this is Alan. This includes the requested upgrades that the board discussed several meetings ago then for some of those sites.
Yeah, because originally the number that we brought to you without tax, and there were some other things that we weren't really sure about what the cost was going to be. Originally on May 13th, you approved $382,639. And part of that we had two vendors that bid. And so there was some confusion down at the Woodland site, and there was no bid on the civil work that needed to be done down there. Castle Rock, we had made a change to cut costs, and we were going to put it on the ball field concession stand. And I just thought it wasn't very fiscally responsible to do that. And then next year, move it to the permanent site, which is going to be the US Cellular site at the high school. So I asked for Day to present a new bid to just put it at the permanent site. So that's kind of where some of these changes are. The Deer Island, we made that a transmit and receive instead of just a receive site to try to improve coverage for law enforcement and fire. So it'll have the fire main frequency and CCSO frequency at that site, transmit and receive, which we anticipate will shoot down into your valley and help with coverage there. Woodland, we're replacing the pole, and I think right now it's like a 60-foot pole, and I don't have the specs right here in front of me, but I want to say we're doing a 120-foot pole. So that should give you some better coverage down there as well. We're adding some equipment down there to try to improve the coverage a little bit. So the increase is about $122,683 from that 386, which would give us a $536,316 for the total cost of Deer Island, Castle Rock, West Longview, Woodland. That's it, all those sites. Questions?
Deanna, any questions for Deanna?
I have one from the peanut gallery, if I may, and I appreciate the switch from just receiving to adding the transmitting. So obviously, I would have expected to see an increase there. Again, strictly from the peanut gallery, I guess I have some curiosity, and maybe there are good explanations for it, but how or why did civil work and polls, for example, were they left out of like original project quotes? And then is there a good explanation for why civil work and a pole in the ground costs more in one spot than it does in another? West Longview and I guess Woodland, for example?
Yeah. So the West Longview site, I'm trying to think of the name of the company, but we tried to buy a pole from PUD originally, and they said, no, we don't do that. So Phil worked with somebody and reached out to somebody in town here that sells wood poles. And they gave us a quote of like, I want to say $7,800 off the top of my head to have it installed and to purchase it. As far as the civil work at West Longview, I don't believe that they had included any civil work originally there. I think I know part of the confusion was that we had this one company bid on civil work and Day bid on the labor part of it. And then we couldn't use the original bid from the one company for the civil work because they didn't do a reasonable bid or whatever. They didn't follow the process basically. So then we went to Day and said, can you bid the civil work as well? And so they did, but there was confusion about the Woodland site. There was no bid there. And I don't believe there was any bid at West Longview either for the civil work. the work in Woodland, that piece of the project was bid by Day minus the civil work. So the pole and all that, they did that procurement through them, through that bid. We didn't go, work privately to get that. So they have like some subcontractors and they have some per diem in the bid. All the civil work was like, I want to say $89,000. So.
Okay. Beyond the, I guess, the physical move from the temporary site at the concession stand and just going ahead and doing it at the US Cellular site for Castle Rock, is that, so, there's a cost associated there, obviously. I was curious as it relates to the use of that US Cellular towers, are we gonna incur any additional costs as far as tower studies?
No. So that particular site up there, the school district, when they were first approached by US Cellular to put a tower there, the school district said, and later the city council passed a resolution, I guess, to make it okay. They said, yes, you can build your tower here, but the top of the tower has to be dedicated to 911 public safety radio. And they said, okay. So that was their agreement. We'll have to do a written agreement with US Cellular, but there's no fees and they're not charging us. That was the understanding in exchange for them being able to put their site there, their tower there.
I guess then the last question that I had was regarding the, and I had to ask because I didn't really know what it was, but the reference to, is it T1 that's going in at Deer Island and trying to understand what that was. And as it was described to be this relatively old technology. And so I was kind of curious in terms of functionality with new radio consoles and Spillman CAD utilizing T1. And I'm not sure I fully understood how it was described to me, except that it was older technology, essentially phone line. So I just wondered about that.
Well, we currently have T1s that are between Rainier and Spili Bay. And for instance, I'm working on a contract with Washington Department of Transportation, and that was one of the things that they needed to have at that site was a T1, and that's to Spili. So this T1 is, I guess you can call it old technology, but it's my understanding that, that is technology that we're still and other radio engineers are still using for that connectivity between the sites. I mean, we could do microwaves, we could do, there's other things that we could do, but.
And to be fair, I probably don't understand all the technology enough to have an informed opinion, but seeing it raised the question for me, and then hearing that it was older technology just made me wonder with the integration of the new consoles and now Spillman CAD, is it going to be able to manage all of that?
I believe it is. I can get, more information from you. I just tell me, a little more what you need to find out. And if you want to know if there's some other type of technology that we could use, or, I mean, it's a fiber. It's a T1 is a fiber, and I mean, we still use fiber today. I mean, for our EZNet phone system, they moved off the T1, but we're still using fiber for that connectivity. The NOAANet is a fiber. So I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah. If there's more you want to know, let me know and I'll dig into it further and try to get a more intelligent answer for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
This is Alan. Just a question on the bidding process. Since some of these pieces were picked up later and adjusted, I guess, so to speak, Are we still within the bid laws? Or I mean, do we have any audit issues there that might raise their heads? Because we tacked things on after the fact?
I would say that we are, unless somebody else has some other input about it. The original bid from Day Wireless was all of the work, like whatever we had originally said, you know, we want to build up these sites, and there were some changes as far as at one point PUD was going to participate at Deer Island. That kind of slowed the project down a little bit. Decisions were kind of flip-flopping, and they could do this or that. Matt transitioned out. Then we had the COVID. We finally just went back and said, let's have a meeting and talk about what we need to do at these sites based on, you know, decisions that were made by the board in May. It was discovered at that time that we didn't have a bid for civil work in Woodland. And Phil had reached out to Dave prior to that to see if they would bid on the civil work at all the sites, because they couldn't use the bid from the other bidder because they didn't go through the process right.
Okay.
So I would say it's more of a change order than the fact that we didn't go through a process.
Okay.
Any other questions for Deanna? If not, I'd entertain a motion. This would be to approve the radio improvement project allocation adjustment.
So moved, Ms. Allen.
Second, Troy.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Then up next would be 9C. I said 7 last time, my apologies. So 9C, this is the ground lease agreement with the city of Longview.
Yes, this is the lease. City of Longview City Council did approve this lease, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago now. This lease provides us for a 99-year lease for the public, for Calais Public Authority's 911 Center. This is our annual lease amount is $1, which we very much appreciate the City of Longview doing that. There are mutual benefits, however. We're installing the water line, sewer line facilities, stormwater facilities, and making improvements to the Lowe's access, right turn lane, and those kind of things. So there's mutual benefits that the City of Longview is going to get in exchange for giving us the favorable lease rate that's provided in the lease. I do want to apologize. The one exhibit that is not in there is what we call a boundary line adjustment. And what that is merely is if you look at exhibits 2, 3, and 4, you can see the existing lot lines that are on those exhibits there. And what we're doing is we're moving the lot lines around so the one lot line will mirror what the lease is, the amount of property that the 911 property is going to lease, and then it will rearrange the property lines in for the remaining property for the City of Longview. Gibson Olson was supposed to have that to us last week, and then I was supposed to get it yesterday, and I still don't have it. But that's just a document that's going to show the actual property, that boundaries of the property that we are going to lease there. And obviously, we will not sign this lease until we have that boundary line adjustment that's been reviewed by everybody that needs to, City of Longview and ourselves. But I apologize, I didn't get that. But I wanted to get this lease approved so we can get that signed once we have all the documents in order.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any questions on the ground lease? Anybody want to give Kurt and Chad a hard time for that $1 lease, raking us over the coals on the $1 lease?
I might have missed it. How long is the lease for? How many years is it?
99 years.
Yeah, it's only 99 years, so
Okay, I won't be here. That's fine.
If you want to shoot us $100 now, we'll call it good. No, I did want to say, really, I appreciate having the ability and support from council, and I know Chet's on the line. I do want you to know that this agreement was made in an effort to establish a stronger collaboration between us and, all of you out there. And, at the end of the day, I feel this is a real benefit to all of our citizens and taxpayers. And, as we move forward with our other contracts and negotiations that we have with our fellow partners, keep that in mind. It's important because we represent all of our citizens in the community, and whether it's members of Castle Rock, Kalama, or Woodland that also see a benefit from that. Those are our citizens. I know they all shop here in Longview, and that's true, of all of us as we, look to beside one another here at our neighbors. So again, I thank certainly council for their support and each of you, for being a partner in this.
I would make the motion that we authorize our interim executive director to execute this lease agreement with the city. And hopefully this will help kickstart Longview's fire station project as well.
Right.
I'll second, Troy.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on this item? All right, hearing or seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? All right, that motion passes. See, item 9D, do a resolution. Do we have any resolutions?
Do not.
And 9E, director's report. Bob.
Okay, staffing update. Our HR director started Monday of this week, and so she's Janelle Edwards is her name, and she is being on board, doing her onboarding with Monique, and she's just getting real immersed in that. And Monique's here on site to go through that transition and help her with that. So we're looking forward to having her on board and getting going. As far as staffing, we're still 19 signed off dispatchers. We have 2 in training, and the training seems to be going real well with those dispatchers. The feedback that I've got from the dispatchers. So that still leaves us 2 open positions in dispatch, and that's one of the priorities that we'll have for Janelle is to, we've actually got testing and a lot of that done for another group of dispatchers there. So Monique's gonna get her up to speed on where the testing is at, what candidates we have, and try and start the interview process and see if we can get another couple of dispatchers hired and into the training process there. So I think that all seems to be going well. I guess the other one is I did share with you a copy of the executive director recruitment information that was in your packet. So that is on the street. It's been published in all the various professional organizations, and they've got a pretty concentrated mass emailing that they do with other agencies in the West Coast. So that's well underway. I expect I will have an initial follow-up with Prothman next week just to see what type of applications they might be getting in there. But I think everything's on track. We do hope to meet the 23rd and 24th of November with the board search committee and take a look at probably anywhere from 10 to 15 applications and see if we can narrow that down to 3, 4, or 5 applications and hope to be able to do the interviews. I believe it's the second week of August. So, but I think it's an aggressive schedule, but we were able to turn around the job profile and get that out on the street in the time frame there. So I think at this point, we're optimistic we can meet that schedule. And like I say, I'll keep in touch with Prothman, and if we are having problems with getting a good candidate pulled out, then I'll advise the board accordingly. But at this point, we hope to have interviews for it with you the second week of December. Any questions on staffing?
Hi, Bob. It's Troy from the Sheriff's Office. I looked at the Prothman job ad and Brad and I weren't familiar with some of those certifications. Who are those through? If you can kind of describe what your some of those certifications you required.
Those are industry. Yeah, what you?
Okay. So the CPE is a certification for public safety executive through APCO. RPL, it's a prerequisite to the CPE. It was about a year-long certification through APCO. ENP is a emergency number professional through NENA. The project management are just a variety of different types of project management.
And I guess would those be considered like standards for?
Yeah, for the industry.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was specific to dispatch PSAP management or not. So thank you.
Yeah, and Prothman, he's done 3 recruitments in the last year, actually in Washington State, and these were recommended certifications that he brought forward to and recommended that these should be some more minimum standards that we have in there. So I relied on his expertise in that area a little bit too.
Okay, thank you.
There's also a third certification, fourth one, I guess, or a CDMP, which is a certification for a comm center manager.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Deanna.
So I have a question on those then, I guess. Would these certifications take precedence over education? Or are they looked at, in the same vein, if you will?
I think the announcement said, or a combination of.
Yeah.
And
those are, this says that those are, if they're lacking 1 or 2 of those out, the education and experience requirement would trump those. And then, but they have these, these are preferred certifications that we'd like to see, on the ideal candidate if they already had those, but it wouldn't disqualify them if they didn't have one of those. The education and experience is what trumps that.
Okay, and I guess what I was getting at is if they had all the certifications but only a high school diploma, would that work the other way?
Well, it could, because we do say a combination of education, training, and 8 years experience. So I mean, it could, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else in staffing?
Facility update. The plans, construction documents, bid specifications are done. We've submitted the building permit application package to the city of Longview, and they're working on that. The first bid advertisement is in the Daily Journal of Commerce today. It will go in Daily News tomorrow. Bid opening is scheduled for November 12th. We do have a pre-bid conference. I believe it's October 22nd. I believe is the day for that. And we have
October 20th.
October 20th, maybe it is, yeah.
And then the on-site's the 22nd.
And then, the pre-bid conference is the 20th. You have the on-site on the 22nd is what it is. So the contractors can have an on-site visit. We'll be on site to answer any questions and show them the site and that kind of thing. Again, we have bid opening on the 12th of November then. We expect to, the city of Longview is committed to us that they're going to have comments to us on the bid package, on the building permit package to us by the end of this month. If we have any major things that come up on their part there, then that would give us time to issue an addendum so that we could have any changes that need to be incorporated from a permit standpoint can be included in the contractor's bid package. But we think everything's on track to have that bid opening on that. I've also been diving into the financing side of things, the bond financing, been asking some questions of the bond council relative to the bond resolutions and the preliminary statement and that. And so we're working through that. And again, our goal then is to, at the board meeting on November 25th, we would bring together a package of the bid package with a recommendation on the low bidder, assuming it's within budget and all that. And then at the same time, we also would plan on bringing you the bond financing package for your consideration also. So I think all that's on schedule. Assuming we have favorable bids, we award on the 25th of November, then that would give us the month of December to sign contracts, get bonds, and all the paperwork in order with the contractor so that they can mobilize and be on site January 1 and have a one-year bid construction or 1 year construction timeframe is what we're anticipating.
Hopefully we'll have a quorum on the 25th of November.
Yeah, I know it's right before Thanksgiving. We talked about that. I mean, if we find we have a problem there, we could probably do it right after the Thanksgiving weekend too. But right now, we'd like to shoot for that. So.
Well, with the Zoom meetings, hopefully people can log on no matter where they may be. So
right. we could do it right in the middle of Thanksgiving. Just be eating turkey and
yeah, each have our drumstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think hopefully we'll we're only gonna have one meeting in November, so we've got to pay the bills and those type of things there. But obviously, this and the financing will be two significant issues there, and we hope to get those packaged. As soon as we get the bids tabulated on that and all that, we will try and get those out to you as soon as you can. Particularly if we have an issue, where bids are high or something like that, or any irregularities, those kind of things, we'll get those out to you as early as we can prior to the 25th, so we have a chance to digest that. So that hopefully when we come to the 25th, things are pretty straightforward. That's all I got in the facility. Radio infrastructure, I think Dana kind of covered that, but I think my understanding is they're ready to, Day Wireless is ready to go once they've got this notification that we've approved the allocation there. So I think they're ready to go. And
I'm just going to call them. They're going to order the equipment and we'll start.
So I think that's we go. Climate and culture, I've only been on here a couple of weeks, so I guess the climate and culture is good, but I'll as far as I know,
still working on your tan.
Yeah, everything's seems to be going well. I mean, I really tried to reach out to the dispatch crew and see as many of them I can, and just let them introduce myself at least, and let them know that I'm trying to keep things moving along the radio project, the facility project, and everything we got going, and just trying to fill the gap here until we can get the executive director. And they've been very great, very welcoming and very helpful, and sharing information and keeping me onboarding me and keeping me going. So I think everything is going well in that arena. So yeah, just one other thing I wanted to bring to your attention. I do at the next board meeting, I'm hoping to give you guys a draft preliminary budget. I know you've had a presentation a couple months ago on the budget, but I want to have a preliminary draft budget to you on October 28th, so that you and spend some time with the board going through that and then we will, based on your input that we get at that meeting, try and present a final draft at the November meeting, and then are planning on adopting the budget in the first meeting in December. So that's kind of the time frame that I've been thinking about based on what I've learned on the budget and where we're at right now. So if you have any thoughts about the budget process or that time frame, let me know if you have a desire to do anything different than that.
Sounds good, Bob.
That's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Bob, I guess, on any of his update? All right, do we have anything for old business? Anybody have anything? Okay, not hearing or seeing anything there. Did we have a need for executive session today?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Then if that's the case, I think we are good to adjourn unless anybody has anything, or we do for the good of the order.
Welcome, Bob, and way to hit the ground running. I'm impressed.
Well, I think my previous experience on the board might be a little bit helpful. I wasn't starting from square one there, but Phil did a good job of getting me. I came in there right away, and once I decided to help out there, and he did a good job of getting me up to speed too there. So it's we'll get there. We'll keep everything going. Lots going on here.
Indeed.
Welcome, Bob.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, with that, have a great day, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody stay safe.
We'll adjourn.